Welcome to our next episode of Meet the Boss. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm
So,
good. How are you?
good. So, as we get started, I just want everybody to know that Lisa is the CEO of Efrvsnt, and
Hello.
she is the creator of Efrvsnt. And a lot of what we do around here um, gets a nice smile that you see right there from Lisa as we get moving forward. And she is an amazing person. And as we get started with our series of meeting all the employees and getting to know everybody that works at Efrvsnt and what we do, I think one of the most important conversations to have is from the creator herself and see what's going on. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And will you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your history, a little bit how you got here, and a little bit of why Efrvsnt got created?
Sure. Wow. Yeah. Um, so I am a wife and a mother of three. Three kids keep me very busy. They sprawl from ages of 2 all the way up to 10. So they keep me on my toes for sure. Born and raised New Jersey, lived in Colorado for a while, which is where I met my husband, and now we live here in Florida in Ormond Beach. Um, I have my degree in psychology, which is where I met you, Cade. You were my social psychology professor at Stetson University. And I got into business. I did absolutely nothing with my psych degree. Got into business, I guess using psychology in business counts, and kind of just landed in the startup realm. I worked in construction for a little while and realized that there was a need for some of the administrative duties. Contractors are very good at doing the work, but sometimes not so good at the administrative side of things. So I started a business doing the administrative and the insurance paperwork for contractors. Started that at my dining room table, and then ended up selling that company and became president of the new company, which is where I got to really cut my teeth with some of the corporate world, but kind of a hybrid of startup / corporate, quarterly board meetings and all that fun stuff. And after a while, I just, wanted a little bit more simplicity. So I went back down to just myself. I sold my shares in that company and was doing business consulting for a lot of companies, doing basically restructuring customer service departments, doing their marketing, doing things like that. And I realized that there was just a common thread with a lot of my clients, that they were struggling to keep happy staff. They were struggling with what they saw as revenue issues with high attrition, and just not understanding really how to fix the problem and not understanding the key issues. So I went to an entrepreneurial leadership conference last November, and I was just really inspired by a lot of the speakers that I saw. One in particular is Gary Vaynerchuk. He really hones in on the thought of empathy with your people. And I just thought, wow, what an inspiring thing to do is to just get leaders involved and really understand how their operation works from the bottom up, right? And just how to interact with their people and just how to fix some of these things that they're seeing that are just symptomatic of a deeper issue. So I met with you, Dr. Resnick, and I was picking your brain saying, I didn't even know at the time that you were an industrial organizational psychologist. I assumed that you were a sociologist because you were my social psych professor at school. And, you just had some really incredible insight as far as the science of everything and mentoring other leaders and transformational leadership. And after a few meetings, a light bulb went off and I just said, why not partner with this person and take what I've learned from the startup realm and just from bootstrapping, getting through business with the science of it. And then one step further, I was also friends with Mike Millett, who is now our third business partner. Yep. And I always tease that he is our G.I. Jones of the group. He's a little bit of G.I. Joe, a little bit of Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. And, he has the extensive military background and also has a lot of business experience as well. So it was kind of perfect. He was doing this leadership training that was very experiential and just really unique. And I figured what a happy marriage of all of these three ideologies. We were very similar but different in our approaches. And hence Efrvsnt was born.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah, it's definitely been a great experience for me as we've moved forward with it. And it's funny, as you say, IO psychology, and then you realize that the umbrella underneath all of it is there's so many different facets of psychology that go into industrial and organizational. And as we do trainings, we do development, and we do all that, I get to use my degree all the time and my experience all the time. And as you said, you said not psych, but yet we're using psychology all the time.
All the time.
I love it. So, you talked about being a mom, you talked about all your business experience. How do you balance all of that? How do you blend all of that?
Honestly, I could be a little bit better about blending it. I have a tendency whenever there's something new and exciting happening in our business, which is happening now with our business. There's a lot of exciting things happening. I tend to be a dog with a bone. And I find myself up in the living room with my laptop at 3:00 in the morning. And I realize that cannot be a thing. So that is definitely something I need to work on being a little bit better at, is the work-life balance. But I do make myself disconnect, especially on the weekends. I do, go in the pool with the kids and just leave my phone inside. So that way, even if it rings, it's fine. I'm not a doctor in the way that it's literally life or death if I don't answer my phone, right? So I do try to practice better self-care in that way and just really disconnect so that way I can be there for my kids. It's definitely a work in progress for sure. But it's definitely something that I have been working on.
Good. And in the realm of being a mom, keeping that conversation going, being a wife, those are leadership roles, in different ways. And Efrvsnt is a transformational leadership company. So how do you facilitate transformational leadership as a mom, as a wife? And then the big question is, with all of us as a team, how do you facilitate transformational leadership as the CEO of our company?
So being a leader of leaders in Efrvsnt is definitely a humbling experience. Being a transformational leader, you have to keep your ego at the door. You have to not want to be the smartest person in the room and admit when you're not. And, being a leader of you and Mike and even just, our client ambassadors who are so inspiring, Stephen and Corbin, their life stories are incredibly inspiring. It's just you just have to stay humble because there are so many ideas that are outside of your own mind, and you want to partner with people that are going to stretch your abilities and bring you to that part of being really uncomfortable because it's not in your wheelhouse, and just say, okay, I have to trust your gut instinct on this and let's go. And I think that's a really important part. And I think a lot of leaders lose that as the company grows. I think that it's fairly simple to do when it's very small, because when you're the CEO of a very small company, you're involved in literally every conversation that happens, right? Which is great, but it's also exhausting. But as you grow and you become a leader of a large group, you lose that part of every conversation because you just can't. It's impossible. You have 50 plus people on your staff. You can't be part of every conversation, but you have to trust the people that you are working with. And that's a huge element. And you have to trust that not only are they following the core values that you put in place, that you worked on together, but also that they are being transformational with their people as well, that are working with them, and they're open to new ideas. And, I'm a firm believer in having a thought process as a leader, but then opening up the floor to everyone around you to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I could be totally wrong. What are some other obstacles that I'm not considering right now? And I think that's really important. And I try to do the same thing with my kids. Instead of being very authoritarian, it's very much like, hey, hold on, let's talk this out. Where was your headspace when you made that decision? And
Right.
then when they explain that, then say, okay, well, here's how we could be better the
Right.
next time, because we all make mistakes. So
Exactly.
even as leaders, we make mistakes.
And that's a great approach. That's where you really do get to grow and develop as well as your family grows and develops. And effervescence is a family all of itself as well. So
Absolutely.
it's indicative of everything that goes along with it. So, as effervescent has been growing, we've had opportunities to work with dynamic leaders, great leaders, different types of leaders. When you are interviewing or speaking to or networking with leaders, what are you looking for in their leadership qualities? What makes a leader a great leader?
Open-mindedness. And I'm going to go back to what I said before, the humility aspect of it. You don't want to believe that you are the best person for the job and that you know more than the people around you. It's really important to be open to new ideas and new concepts. Case in point, what's going on right now with COVID and everything. I think a lot of leaders realized some weaknesses within their organizations because of a lack of flexibility and a lack of open-mindedness in the way that they were running things. So you're kind of forced into it. You're kind of forced into saying, look, I got to be more flexible in these situations. So I think that the three key elements, if I had to give them, would be humility, open-mindedness, and trust of other people. Absolutely.
I think those are three great ones to go with. So going back to, effervescent came to be because of many other facets in your life as those pieces kind of lined up. And sometimes the pathing just needs to line up perfectly and that aha moment comes about.
Yes.
As you mentioned several times, the approach that Effervescent has, our approach is for transformational leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we important? Why do we matter as a company, and why are we hired to go into other companies?
Anyone who's ever run any level of an organization understands that when the money is coming in and you are super busy, the last thing on your mind is tweaking things. Mm-hmm. You're saying, if it ain't broke, the money's coming in. What happens is, in situations like what just happened with the pandemic, when the money is not flowing and you have all this stuff coming in, all of a sudden a lot of these things start poking out that were the symptoms that you just were not, you knew were there, but you were just had the blinders on and you just said, you know what, we're just going to keep focusing on this. If we just keep focusing on this and the money keeps coming in, that's going to solve all the ills of the company. Money does not solve the ills. It doesn't, because money is going to ebb and flow. That's just the nature of business. You have to have that culture behind your organization. You have to have people that are buying in. You have to have people that are trusting your direction, and you have to have that open line of communication. It's really difficult to do as you're trying to run everything else. When you're the CEO or someone in the C-suite, you're going a million miles an hour, and you're just so disconnected from everything that's happening at your, lack of a better term, but your starting or lower level of your organization. It's just really tough unless you're sitting there making phone calls with them every day and you just can't have a touch point with everyone. So it's really important to have an outsider's perspective. One, so you're not having any type of bias, because we all have our own bias. And if you have an outside organization who knows nothing about the politics of your company, who knows nothing about, who said something negative at the last board meeting, when they don't understand that and they don't know those things, they can have a very objective viewpoint of what's going on. So I think it's really important to hire a company like ours to come in. We facilitate an actual evaluation, a 360 evaluation of what's happening within the company, to say, hey, here are the things that we're seeing, and what you're experiencing are just symptoms of these deeper rooted issues, which are communication lapses, which is a lack of empathy that's happening, or a lack of perceived empathy, trust issues. And to have a little bit of those tougher conversations with a little bit of tough love and say, look, we're not just telling you what the problem is, we're also telling you what the solution is and how we can make you bigger, better, faster, stronger in the future. Yep.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So I really appreciate the fact that we're coming in and we're helping them with solutions. There are many companies like Efrvsnt, but Efrvsnt's different.
Yes.
How? How?
Many other companies, I love this question because this is like my passion right here. So my baby. Many other organizations in our space are very great at what they do. I'm definitely not putting anybody down in this realm. There's a lot of very smart people in this field. They take an approach of, come into a classroom, we're going to make you feel good. We're going to tell you all of these things. And then a lot of them kind of pat you on the back and say, go get them, and then that's pretty much it. We have a couple different elements that really set us apart. One of them being, we believe that you retain more and you learn more when you're outside of the classroom. Being under the fluorescent lights, being in the boardroom, being, in front of a whiteboard, excuse me, tends to make you retain a little bit less. You're a little bit more of a subject matter expert when you're in that boardroom. So when we get you out of that environment and out of your comfy place, and you're experiencing leadership, you're experiencing tasks and tools and being able to apply them back to your business life and to your actual projects that you're dealing with. When we go in and we do our 360 evaluation, we're going to talk to the leadership team and say, what are specific projects you're working on that have some sticking points? And we'll help you work through that in these experiences. After that, we don't just pat you on the butt and say, hey, I'm really glad that you're feeling good and all this stuff, and we're going to send you back out there. Because what happens when you go back out there, right? Like, you're not having kumbaya anymore.
Right.
Now you're back in, and recidivism rates are so high because it's great to say you're going to trust your team, but what happens when one of your team members makes that first mistake?
Right.
And you say, oh, this is why I didn't trust people. I can't trust anybody. I got to take this control back. So what we do is we hold your hand. We check in every few months, as often as you would like for some of these projects, all the way through the year mark to say, where are we at with these projects? Are you needing more help? Do you need a refresher? How can we help you facilitate what's happening in your organization at that time? So that reduces that recidivism rate of, going back to some old habits that are going to die hard.
Right. And then you mentioned a couple times the pain points. How do we help find those pain points, and how do we help find those pain points as we move forward with companies? And then what do we do with them?
So when we go in and we do our 360 evaluation, we're not just sending out an online anonymous survey, right? We're going to be talking to a sample size of your organization and actually having conversations with them. Anonymous, conversations, as far as confidential is probably a better word, confidential conversations, to find out, reading body language and hearing what's not being said. And, some people are just going to be straight up blunt and tell us everything that they feel and that they think, and what their perception is, because that's the important part. There's the truth of what's happening, right? And then there's everybody's perception of what's happening. And those perceptions, depending on what your role in the organization is, are going to differ. Just like the classic fight between sales and operations. They're never going to get along because they just have very different perception of how things should be done. So we take all of those conversations and we do an analysis that says, okay, here's what all of these different perceptions are. And based on all of this information, what's the diagnosis? Like, we see the symptoms, but what's the diagnosis here? And then we take that and we write a prescription, which is that mindset reset experience, to say, okay, these are the issues that you're having. Here's the spirit of your organization. And based on that spirit, we're going to have an experience that we think is going to really resonate with your people.
I love it. You use the reference, we're going to diagnose them, we're going to write a prescription. So kind of a medical approach, but more of a psychological approach. We're going to come in and help the perception. You use a lot of psychological terms in there, and come in and help a company. And sometimes companies are afraid of the word psychology, is that we're going to come in and psychologically analyze behavior. What sets us apart in that? What am I saying here? What sets us apart in the 21st century approach that really does help a business? What makes us that much different that when we leave, we know it's going to work?
What makes us really different in this whole dynamic is, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was a lot of that transactional leadership, right? So we had more of the, annual reviews and, hey, we're just going to throw money at the problem, right? That way, somebody gets a good annual review, you get a 5% increase. And from there, taking that transformational approach, it's more of a touch points, right? So it's more of a, hey, let me have that relationship with you. Let me find out kind of what makes you tick. You might have to redo this section because I don't think I answered the question correctly. So
no, you're doing it. Well, the way I was hearing you say is it's sort of like we come up with a prescription. We diagnose. We come in and diagnose. We come up with a prescription for how to help you, which is very medical or psychological. And companies quite often will say, "Oh, I don't want. That's getting into things I don't want to touch on. Right? That's too sensitive of material."
Right.
But we have a way of coming in and doing it that brings comfort,
right,
as well as change.
Right. So the psychological aspect of it, you're right, can be very scary for people when they hear, oh my gosh, I'm going to be diagnosed. They're going to figure out all my deep, dark secrets and oh my goodness. And, it's not that way. It's a very, it's a gentle approach, and these experiences that we design really facilitate that. So, what do I mean by experiences? Because, we say, Mike and I were talking about this yesterday. We say the sky is the limit, right? Mm-hmm. But what does that mean? Because when we say the sky is the limit, you're only going to imagine as far as your imagination can go, right? So I think a lot of people just defer to, oh, we can go to the beach and we're going to do some team building and then we'll go have margaritas and have a dance party, right? That's not it. I mean, we can go, Mike is designing an experience right now where, people go down to the Everglades and they're doing leadership experiences going through the Everglades and trying to get out to the other side and then hop on a Cessna and take the Cessna to Tampa and then finish the experience there. I mean, just crazy things. Another one that he was discussing was a bike ride through a park with alligators, and just one person in charge of who's counting the alligators when we get to the other side, and then who's making sure everyone's safe, and then, hey, here's the issue that you guys have to face within your organization. By this next stop point, everybody has to come with a solution and an idea to help solve that problem. So it's, and then, the person in front is going to have to gauge how fast they're going, because you have to make sure that person behind isn't too far behind, and you're all as a pack. Maintaining all of that at the same time in a group. Just excursions like that are really outside of somebody's, wheelhouse. Maybe this company is coming from Colorado. They don't have alligators out there, so they're going to be blown away. For those of us that live in Florida, we're like, alligators. Yeah, if we see 5 of them a day, But just really different experiences and excursions to really kind of set yourself to out of your comfort zone to retain more.
And then we help bring it back to the workplace, right?
Absolutely.
So you've gone on this excursion, you've done what you needed to do on this excursion, we've built the team, then we help facilitate that change back to the workplace.
Yep, because you're going to have solved some of the problems within your organization while on this experience. That's why it's so important that we do things that are unique and specific to each company. We're not doing the same experience for 2 companies. It's just, it would never work that way, because every company is unique and has its own issues that it's facing. So we are making a very bespoke experience and also solving the problems in real time. So when you go back to the office, you're like, hey, remember that idea that Janet had? And I think that was awesome. I think we need to implement that. Or, hey, you know what, Matt, I didn't realize you were so outspoken. I always thought you were this quiet person. I think that you should take the lead on this other project. So things that you didn't realize about each other, and natural born leaders are going to rise effervescently to the top during these experiences.
Right. Love it. All right, just a few more questions.
Sure.
So it's been a very interesting time frame in our lives. 2020 is a very interesting year.
Mm,
So I know with the Efrvsnt, we were working on crisis management as we were getting into the COVID experience, and then COVID hits.
yeah.
And as we're having this interview, we're also dealing with a lot of racial issues that have hit, also
Yeah.
fit the crisis management scenario, which is a lot of that's cultural, behavioral and
Mhm.
cultural and everything like that. How does Efrvsnt approach these life experiences, life-changing experiences, at the same time as a business-changing experience for leaders?
It's all in the ability to pivot, right? It's all in that ability to be flexible. And what we do is we teach people, especially through transformational leadership, that you got to lean on your people. You got to trust your people. You got to trust their life experiences. And that's why a diverse workplace is so incredibly important, because you need all those different life experiences to really round out a solid plan of how your company is going to move forward and how you can navigate certain things. You as a leader shouldn't be the smartest person in the room. I know I've said this a couple of times. Like, you need to be able to rely on those people that you brought on, because you brought them on for a reason. You brought them on for their life experience, for their education, for their perspective. So why would you not utilize that? Now that you have them, why would you not draw from them on those
Right.
things? So what we do is we just remind the leadership about the team that they have and how to best utilize them to all their strong points.
Great, great, great. I love it. So, in following up on that conversation, because you said a diverse team and a diverse environment, it's interesting as we look at the business place right now. 21st century businesses have 5 generations in the workforce.
Yes. Yes.
What do we say to leaders that are dealing with those conflicts, those problems, or those different generations?
Well, they are wildly different, right? So you have, the baby boomers they were born and raised in business where it was the very traditional annual reviews and all of these things, and you're only getting those checkpoints every so often, right? Um, the younger generation, so millennial and now the Gen Zers that are starting to come in, are wildly different, right? They want the everyday touch point. They want to know immediate feedback, right? We're in the days of Amazon Prime. We want everything immediate gratification. So having very diverse mentalities, it is really important. That's where transformational leadership really comes in, because everybody is motivated differently.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that you are really understanding what makes your people tick. It's like, even in a relationship, you have the 5 love languages, right? So how you have to speak your partner's communication style, right? And how they're receiving. So the same with your employees and people that work with you. You want to understand what's making them tick. That one person might really just want the fancy title. They don't really care about anything else. They just want the title. The other person might want that pay bump because they have 3 kids to support, and that money is the most important thing to them. What are their motivations? And understanding that people's motivations are going to change as they grow and evolve. That 23-year-old is going to have very different expectations when they're 37 on what's important. So it really just comes down to the communication and the empathy for your people. I think it's really important. And that's how you can best manage all of those layers of generations within the organization.
I agree with you 100%. Now, continuing that conversation with 5 generations in the workforce, and I know you and I are very similar in that, we have kids, and come 9 o'clock at night when the kids go to bed, you and I really start working.
Yeah.
Not that we're not working through the day, but that's when we start doing reading, researching, and we really start getting into things that help advance Efrvsnt.
Yes.
With the 5 generations in the workforce, you and I come from a generation, or at least from parents, or whatever situation that's like that. So we grew up that way. How do we help guide leaders who are like us, but their employees are not? the employees are more work-life balance?
So it is important as leaders, especially as an entrepreneur, to understand that your employees, as it stands right now in the workforce of just your traditional 9 to 5 salary, are not going to buy in to the degree that you are as the owner, right? It's not going to be the same level of buy-in for them. It's going to be clock in, clock out, and hopefully there's an amazing culture there. There are elements that you can do to boost some more of the buy-in, right? So profit sharing, so the end result of the whole company, and literally making it where people are invested in this, they have some skin in the game. And also just trying to build a separate culture outside of what the standard is. Just because it's been done the same way forever doesn't mean that's the only way to do it, right? Sometimes we need to break stuff and rebuild it. And just because your organization has always been run the same way and you're just like, well, this is just how we do it. Again, COVID really broke a bunch of stuff, and now we're realizing like, wow, you know what? This was a better way to do it all along. Twitter right now is having all their people work from home because they realize the overhead costs of having offices and all of these things. While it's great to have everybody in one place, there is something to say for that. There's a lot more getting done. Productivity's gone up like 43% with people working from home, right? So the universe kind of forcing us to break some stuff has now opened the doors to so many other possibilities for leaders to say, okay, you know what? This is my opportunity to not follow status quo and do something differently that works for my belief system, that works for my people's belief system, and really can allow me to show more empathy to their life situations.
Right. I love that. And of course, we understand and respect the fact that there's some organizations that have to have, like people in the field, they have to work their 8 to 5 or their 9 to 5, and we can balance those type of scenarios as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always the caveat, right? It's never, everybody's situation is unique and specific to them.
Right. All right, just a couple more questions for us.
Sure.
So as Efrvsnt grows and keeps moving ahead, what can we expect to see from Efrvsnt in the future?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, we have so much going on right now. I feel like the company that we first started, it's already looking different than what we originally anticipated in a great way, and that's just down to just all of us just being open-minded. But I think in the short term, my goal for us is to be able to help people, and that's short term and long term. I mean, that's just a core value. And we started this organization wanting to help the human experience at work. I mean, that is the core of everything that we do, is really wanting to make work better for people, because we spend more time at work than we do with our families, really, in any given week. So being miserable in that situation is just unhealthy in so many ways.
Right.
So short term, I'm really excited to, once everything opens back up, to really be jumping into these mindset resets, because we have some really fantastic ideas floating around that I'm really excited to implement once we get the green light to be amongst the people again. Long term, it's funny. I've shared this with you and Mike privately, but you're the only two people that I've told this to. Now
the world's going to hear about it.
They are. So now I'm really gotta stick to it. But my long-term goal of understanding that we've really accomplished what we set out to accomplish is I have a vision and a dream that one day we have such a large organization that we've created a movement within work, that we've created a movement with transformational leadership. And I just envision having a company party, an award ceremony for people, just changing the world. And we're at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in the Temple of Dendor atrium, and that's where they hold the Met Gala, and just having this amazing event. And that will be my moment to know that we set out and accomplished what we set out to accomplish. And that's my long term. That's probably like 10 plus down the road, but
that's okay. That's our goal. That's where we're going to get to. That's when we'll know we've achieved Lisa's success.
Yes.
All right. One more question. It's a question I like to ask everybody when I interview them, just to kind of see what their mindset is.
Sure.
So 3-year, 5-year, 10-year goal. You sort of touched on the 10-year Efrvsnt goal, but what's Lisa's goal for the next 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years?
Wow. I never want to be in a position where I have to work, right? I want to do it because I love it, you know, I do. God, I love what we're doing. I love how we nerd out all the time, and you send podcasts to us, and we're constantly, you know, learning and developing and growing. And I want that to be what I do full time, just constantly learning, and teaching my kids, you know, just the incredible value and fulfillment you get from learning something new. And I want to make sure that I'm just never satiated in that capacity. I want to, you know, just keep working, have my kids be healthy and driven, and just be in a situation where I'm here because I still love it, and I still have that same passion that I have today. And so my dream is that we are really part of that movement, and really a key player in that movement of changing the workforce. And I get to just kind of still not be satiated in that, and just still learn more and want to be bigger, better, stronger all the time. So my 10-year goal is probably to be, you know, more successful from where we are right now, and more visible from where we are right now, but still not content where we are, and still trying to be bigger and better.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your time in this. I have had a lot of fun interviewing you. Hopefully you've had a lot of fun on the hot seat.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Any final words for everybody? We
are so excited to work with so many of you. We all truly love what we do. It's not work. It's not work. It's every day is just, I find myself on the phone for hours, and the days just fly by. And it's these conversations are, you know, with you, Cade, it's just learning about more of the psychology and the science, and just kind of nerding out over that. And with Mike, more of that strategy approach. And just, you know, I always hang up the phone inspired from everybody on our team. Yeah. And I am so excited to be able to instill that on our clients, and to really show that passion to our clients for what we do. I'm waiting on pins and needles for us to get the green light to be out amongst everyone again.
Yeah, you and me both.
So yeah, so that's my final thoughts.
Great.
All right. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye.